from this session as well. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start the session today. Okay. This is the second virtual discourse session that we have here by UOW Malaysia KDU, specifically organized by School of Business here. Okay. And the title for today, it's SME Survival Kit series, looking into the digital story strategies. Yeah. Okay, this is going to be a 1 hour session, which we expect to end by 4:30. So if you have any questions, please shoot us and we will try to address your question as much as we can. Yeah. So a little bit about who we are, UOW Malaysia KDU. Everybody knows about KDU in all this while, and we have just been part of the UOW or University of Wollongong Australia network since end of last 2 years. And therefore, we have about 36 years of history now in the private higher education industry. And altogether, we have 4 campuses now, two in Klang Valley, one in Damansara Jaya, and another one is Utropolis Glen Mary Shah Alam, and 2 more campuses up north in Penang, one in Georgetown and another one in Batu Kawan. Yeah. So as I said, now we are part of the UOW or University of Wollongong Australia Global Network, which allows us, all KDU students and expertise lecturers as well, to have access to all these other expertise around the world, okay, connecting to UOW itself. So a little bit brief of the session for this evening. Literally, we are saying that the recent economic slowdown and the COVID-19 issue has impacted a lot of in the businesses, especially the SMEs. Okay, and with the current implementation of MCO, somehow or rather, the usage of technology and online platforms have further enhanced the usage of digital media for businesses to interact. So that's why that's the reason we start up with this topic for today, to look into the digital story strategies. Yeah. A bit background of our panelists for today. So we have 2 panelists all together. The first one is Mr. Prashant Kumar. He is the founder and senior partner, yeah, of Entropia. Yeah. Entropia is one of the top digital marketing agency in Malaysia and also in the region as well. And Prashant himself has a lot of wide experience, both in locally and internationally as well. Yeah. And next one we have Mr. Xavier Mah. He is a founder of Xavier Mah Counsultancy and XALF, which is a private label for shoes, right? Yeah, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, and very expensive shoes, as I know. So he also did a lot of yeah, he did a lot of PR and branding strategies for a lot of companies as well. Yeah, that includes some of the top brands in Malaysia itself. Okay, so you will say hello to everyone, Prashant and Xavier. Prashant, perhaps you first.
Hi. Well, I'm intrigued by the crowd that is listening to me here. Of course, one thing that last 1 month has made me realize is that we use words like unprecedented, extraordinary, exceptional, all these words so lightly in our day-to-day lives. And it is when something truly extraordinary like COVID-19 that we realize that we have run out of superlatives. So if there's one thing I intend to do after this crisis is over, is not use these words very lightly.
Okay, good one. Okay, Xavier, you want to say some things to the participants here?
I think hi everyone. My name is Xavier. I think this MCO made me realize that how reminds me how I started my business, because 10 years ago I started my business from home. So literally after 6 years I have my own office. So I kind of like used to work from home. The kind of method to me, it just like reminds me the person who I was yesterday.
Right. So not much different for you, perhaps.
Yeah, so to me, it's like I think it'll be quite busy for me, and a lot of things have to shift to online platform. Whereby, like if you notice, we have more online contents, and at the same time, we generate a lot of live interviews as well.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, the panelists. Yeah, so these are your 2 panelists for this evening. Okay. So next, I will brief a bit on the issue and the context of this virtual discourse session today, so that all of us are very focused in the area that we want to talk about and spend time today together. A little bit of a timeline as presented by Al Jazeera earlier on. Talks about when and how coronavirus started. It was back end of last year, and the first death situation was just announced by China back on the 11th of January, and onwards it goes all the way spreading up to different countries, as we know. And of course, in Malaysia case, we started our own MCO movement back into the 18th of March 2020, and it was extended a second time and a third time. And probably by tonight, we will know whether if it's going to be extended further or not, right? So let's keep our fingers crossed and just be safe, stay at home at the moment. A little bit of information on the impact of COVID-19 on Malaysia's business environment here. So as what Bank Negara has shared earlier on during one of the press conference, the global economy is expected to contract in 2020, and therefore Malaysia is not going to be exception in that situation, right? Especially when we talk about exports of goods and services has reduced. It's going to be reduced tremendously, particularly the weak demand of from the global side of any products and services. Similarly goes to private investment, is going down as well. And therefore, Bank Negara Malaysia has actually projected the Malaysia's economic growth to be -2% to maximum 0.5% in 2020, as compared to the earlier projection growth of 4.3%. Mainly because of these COVID-19 issues and the MCO condition. Okay. News also has been popping up a lot, talking about the retail industry has shrunk tremendously in the past few months. Okay, especially when you talk about year to year, it is expected to shrink by 5.5% this year, and it's actually the first contraction since 1998. So retail has been very good business all this while, but a bit tough at this point of time. Okay, and because of that, also and especially on MCO condition, it actually changes and reshape how local retail industry works. Basically, right? Everything goes online now. So what Malaysian government has done is to introduce the economic stimulus packages. Since the first package was announced back on the 27th of February 2020, that worth about 20 billion ringgit, and it was announced by the then interim Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. And 1 month later, our current Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin announced the first Malaysia Prihatin economic stimulus package that worth about 250 billion ringgit. And 10 days later, he announced the second additional Prihatin economic stimulus package that worth about 10 billion ringgit Malaysia. So this is just to give everybody an understanding of the involvement of government in curbing this particular situation, from the MCO condition to the announcement of the economic stimulus packages. And also to have everybody on the same page in terms of the definition of SME that we are focusing today. We adopt the definition by the SME Association of Malaysia, defined into two different categories. The first one is for manufacturing. The small enterprises, literally defined as those sales turnover from 300,000 to 15 million ringgit, or employees of 5 to 75 people. While the medium enterprise, the sales will goes up to 50 million ringgit, and employees to maximum 200 employees. While the services and other sectors, the small enterprises literally have a sales turnover of less than 3 million ringgit and employees of not more than 30 people, while those medium enterprises are with sales turnover of 20 million ringgit and maximum of 75 employees. So these are the definitions according by the SME Association of Malaysia. This is just to give everybody a common understanding. So the whole thing, that whatever the government has planned from the MCO action as well as the stimulus packages here, and therefore Bank Negara highlighted very specifically one of the key area for the economy to grow again in the near future is through the digital future. So that's the reason why today the session is really focused on the digital strategy itself, specifically for the SMEs to survive in the near future. Yeah. And just a little bit more background of in the world, based on the report by Hootsuite, up to January 2020. These are the numbers of population using digital uh, devices, and internet users and social media users. These are tremendous, yeah, numbers that we can look into. But however, when you look at the penetration ratio, there are still a lot of room to improve, basically. And these are the world's most used social platforms. Will be great for SMEs to have a reference if you are intending, or when you are ready to embark on this digital strategy platform itself. So this will be some good information for you as well. Okay, so these are just some certain brief that I would like to share with everybody before I pass on to the panelists today to share their thoughts on digital story strategies in that particular manner. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to invite our first panelist, Prashant. The floor is yours now.
Sure. So one thing is pretty clear, and that the lifestyles that the lockdown has necessitated. Even after the lockdown is over, I think there are going to be some fundamental changes in how we look at certain things. So, for instance, a lot of skeptics like me, who all these years felt that work from home was not a good idea,
Mm.
are realizing that actually it's not too bad. And I am just one of those thousands and thousands of business owners and those hundreds of millions of employees, the white collar workers especially, who are realizing that work from home can be like normal work, almost there. And while it may have certain disadvantages versus physical office, it has some other advantages, like saving time on commute and so on and so forth, that make it a lot more efficient. Now, this is such a fundamental shift, because what you are talking about is, if even 10 to 20% of companies in Malaysia start allowing work from home, there'll be a whole new crunch. There will be a whole new crisis in the whole office real estate business,
Mm.
office equipment business, all the businesses that are around helping people go to office, they are all in a crisis. Similarly, if you think about the fact that it is not just work from home, but also study from home, then a lot of schools are now getting used to more and more with online classes, online learnings, stuff like that, which means that if you are involved in one of those education techniques and methodology kind of businesses and so on, I mean, schools are not going to shut down any soon, but it is quite clear that online learning will suddenly explode and will become a massive part of overall education business. So whether it's in terms of work, whether it's in terms of learning and education, there is some fundamental disruptions. There is also the larger health and hygiene consciousness of the society is going to go up dramatically, even after the lockdown is over and the corona crisis is gone. Which
Mm.
means that all those businesses which are in this space, or even if you are into some other category, but there is some connection with health and hygiene, because the product needs to be touched, the store needs to be visited, and so on and so forth. This can provide a huge opportunity to leverage on.
Mm.
Uh, in general, I think all businesses are expected to become low touch, become contactless, and it has implications for everything. I mean, you may have elevators coming very soon where you don't have to touch anything. You may have in-store counters where credit cards, well, the wave is already a trend, but which requires very little touch between the counter people and you. So this is the huge shift in terms of the business structure. Of course, I need not stress on e-commerce and how everything must be sold online eventually, and delivery will become a very big mode of getting stuff. How in-home consumption, whether it's OTTs, television, all those, they have already shot up. And even after this whole crisis is over, I don't see them going back to the previous levels. They will continue to have certain growth. Um, there are implications of this for digital marketing, specifically beyond the business, which is in terms of messaging and media. So, in terms of messaging, we see a much larger sensitivity to health and hygiene, which presents a very interesting opportunity. We also see that there is a larger feeling in the society that people have become a lot more altruistic. People have become more sensitive to, the dark underbellies of the society, the disadvantaged people, and how they are coping up with these times. So people have become more purposeful, and brand purpose becoming more and more important. And there are implications in terms of media, like B2B sales. Now
Okay.
they will have to figure out a way to sell virtually. So, I mean, there are implications across the business structure, across messaging, and across media. I would love to get into more details in your Q&A. So,
Okay.
yeah, we all, yeah.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Prashant. Xavier, your turn.
I think the Prashant has touched on the impacts of COVID-19 on life and consumer behavior. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard about many times already that, like Prashant mentioned earlier, we are facing unprecedented challenging times. We are facing shut borders, global pandemic, and social distancing has become the new norm. So, with the economic situation set to continue in a decline, so what are the entrepreneurs, especially SME, to do stay afloat in this pandemic and time of uncertainty? So there's so much noise in the social media. So how do we stand out? So there are that we are personal situations. When I talk about this, these are referring to digital. So digital personal branding, can be done us, but it's easy to get lost in the process. It's essential in helping your brand to actually stand out. So I'm going to share 3 tips for the SME to excel in their digital personal branding, because it's important for the SME, to actually stand out in a digital platform, because people were going to Google about you, people are going to see whether you are legit, whether you are a good business owners or entrepreneurs. So the first one, have a brand focus and be genuine. We talk about personal branding is not just about talking about how good you are, but instead building the trust and credibility with your audience through creative online content. Having a brand that people trust is way more important than hard selling your product and services, because I notice a lot of businesses, they actually hard selling about their products. Today buy one free one, tomorrow buy two free one. So if you keep talking about selling and selling, you are not telling the story about your products. Number 2, always be consistent. When did you the time that you update your social media? I notice a lot of SME or the companies do not update their social media frequently, probably once a week a post, or probably their last post was last month or probably 2 months ago. So do share relevant content with your followers. Remember, being consistent and engaging, you're interacting with the followers is the key. Okay, number 3, I think don't expect overnight result. Be ready for failure, because a lot of people think that first time you do social media, wow, you're gonna be good result, knowing that every best friend overcome from a repeated trial and error, mistake and failures, and not from the instant perfections. So on the other note, I strongly believe that put through all these crisis businesses and especially SME who have been hit and the hardest should already be online, and make it this shift. A strong online presence will be the key digital marketing and keeping business alive. Even though your business is challenging, make sure you do not go quiet, because no matter how bad your business is impacted, you have to keep talking and listening to the people. So when I talk about digital marketing campaign, it is important for us to understand what the future of social marketing looks like. According to Forbes, I did a research. So marketing analysts that saying influencer marketing industry would be worth about 15 billion by 2022, a rise of 8 billion in 2019. And also TikTok is a fast growing influencer platform with ever 1 billion active user in 2019. And the nano influencer, less than 1,000 followers on Instagram, have higher engagement rates of about 7.2%, than mass influencers, which is they have more than 100,000 followers. In the coming years, it has predicted that the niche blog space will have to face a ready decline in overall web traffic engagement. So marketing in 2020 will likely continue the trend towards social media influencer who actually capitalize on the growth and platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. With that, today sharing, I think everybody can learn about this digital storytelling through personal branding and through the skills of storytelling. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for Xavier as well. I guess just to sum up a little bit, right, from what Prashant and Xavier had shared earlier on, both of our panelists also literally talks about branding. Yeah. In fact, this is the right time to really spend time and money into branding itself, right? The one of the key inspiration to start up this whole SME survival kits series is when the government first introduced the first pre-13 stimulus package. It wasn't really benefiting a lot of SMEs. That's where we hear a lot of complaints, a lot of grievances from the SMEs. So the first thing comes to my mind is that why will the SMEs just focus on the government support, which nothing wrong with that, yeah, but will that be your full answer for your own survival, yeah? And why you never thought about how can you build your customers, how can you further engage with your customers, what about your branding, and exactly what our panelists have been sharing this evening here. The branding presence is literally very, very important, right? And perhaps this is the right time when everybody has time to really listen to you via online specific, right? In the past few weeks, this keyword called new norms has been emerging in the market. Yeah, things that we used to do before, it may not no longer valid. Yeah, has been replaced by the new practice, the normal practice now that we talk about. And I particularly like what Xavier talked about, the upcoming or the increasing of these nano influencers, right? Versus
Yeah.
mass influencers. So maybe later on, if the participants are interested to know more about what does it mean by nano influencers and why should we invest with them versus the mass influencers as part of their digital strategy, we may do so. Okay, so I have some questions here being raised by the participants. So let me just read out the questions and see any one of you will be able to answer these particular questions here. So this comes from Khalis Lokman. He asked about during this MCO period, is it advantage for people who wants to build business through an online platform as a stepping stone? And what are the main and odd strategies we can provide or you can provide? So first of all, do you think this is the right time for people to jump into the digital marketing bandwagon now or online business now? Based on this current MCO situation? And if yes, what kind of key strategies they should consider? Can I start with Prashant first, perhaps?
Sure. So from a platform point of view, obviously online platform is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it would have been the case even earlier, but now with COVID-19, we know that e-commerce is going for an explosion. So it's a perfect time. So that can't be faulted. But having said that, of course, what also matters is what business are you exactly getting in
Okay.
and how that is already online. But if you are in a category which is mostly offline right now, and you want to start with a pure play 100% digital journey online platform, you know what, go for it, because
Right.
that space is going to explode and you
Right.
will ride the wave. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Xavier? What's your thoughts about on this?
I think there's no good time or bad time to start a business, and as long as you have a good idea, you can start your business anytime. So especially when you want to start a business right now, for instance, especially during this pandemic, especially this crisis, make sure your business addresses the needs of the people, address the needs of the consumer, not just about like your about you. You need to make sure you're able to solve the problems of the people or the consumers. I think to me, there's no good time or bad time to start a business. If you have a good idea, anytime you can start a business.
Okay.
If it is a clothing business, sorry, there is a supplementary question.
Yes.
Which, just to add to what Xavier said, if a clothing business which has tons of competitors, uh, well, I guess the biggest problem there is differentiation. So if you can start a clothing business online where you can find a way to attract people by deploying certain digital strategies which are relatively unique. I mean, Lazada is now talking about live streaming their
Yeah.
fashion shows and people being able to sell it. Maybe you can have some of these influencers that Xavier was talking about. You send your dresses to them, they dress up, they shoot the video in their drawing room, and they upload it for their fans, and they can come to your platform and sell it, and you reward those influencers based on how many conversions came from each of them. I mean, you have to think of something different if you're going to take on Lada and the other clothing guys, Fashion Valley, and all those guys. Uh, if I understand correctly, I mean, branding is very different in the clothing business. So you will have to think about how to create that branding and attraction,
Mm.
and how do you differentiate versus how guys are selling today.
Right. Just to supplement what Prashant has talked about earlier on, right? And also to address Khalis Lokman's question here on clothing business itself. Yes, it's very true. It's a lot of a competitor. And just to share with you my own experience, right? I've been browsing through Zalora for the past week or so. Try to get some decent price branded clothings. Yeah. And I actually realized that when I try to look for other apps or other online fashion store that is offering the similar branded items, I actually can't find besides Zalora. Yeah. You may think that you have in Lazada or you may have in Fashion Valley, but they have a very different range of products itself and different brands itself as well. So I think exactly what Prashant has talked about just now. If you want to be in a clothing business which is very competitive itself, you got to make sure yourself really have certain uniqueness there, really really different to differentiate yourself versus any others. So if you see Fashion Valley or Zalora per se or Oxwhite, for example, all of these different platforms are selling clothings, but they are very unique in their own sense. Yeah. And of course, to support what Xavier has talked about as well, is it really a good time? There's no right or it's a good or bad time to start with, as long as your model is there, your business model is there, and your uniqueness is there. Yeah, and of course, using the online platform probably is one of the good option now, right? Because this is a new norm now. Yeah, for everybody to do things online itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's speaking about like especially during this pandemics, right? I guess I read a research about like consumer behavior, as Prashant mentioned earlier. Consumer behavior had changed, because all this crisis throughout this crisis, and people are more conscious in terms of spending. And when you come up probably lifestyle product, especially fashion oriented product, people might think probably spend it later, not now, because like essential items would be crucial at the moment, not
Mm.
something which is like you can't wear new shoes to at home, right? You
Yeah.
can't wear new shoes to Raya, because now basically people cannot go out for Raya at the moment. I mean Puasa, so you have to think something relevant to what people needs especially at home, or probably people want to do something like Prashant mentioned earlier, something unique, something special. You have set your brand persona and make sure your brand persona is attractive enough to get people to buy your products.
Okay, great. So since Xavier has touched on a bit on consumer behavior side, I think these questions from Alvin Tan can be quite relevant. Yeah. So he actually asked, do you agree that COVID-19 pandemic has actually ensued a cultural reset of consumers? Yeah. So what is your thought on this? Whether the culture has been reset, based on this current situation?
In general, I think the whole ecosystem has been reset since the day one. Because people start to actually conscious about what do they need to buy, what do they need to spend, what sort of thing is important to them. So I think in general, because you start at home for so long, right, you tend to started to actually take out the unused items, whether you want to throw it or not. So the thing is, to me, I felt that it's important to understand the consumer behavior, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic, and also to understand what is important to the consumers. Do not actually, during especially this time, to keep hard sell about your product, because at the end of the day, your consumer might feel that you're not empathy, about the situations.
Okay, and Xavier also talks a bit on be genuine, right? When we want to promote your brand, for example. What is your take on this, Prashant? Be genuine as a brand. What does it really mean, and do you think it's really that important?
Well, if you look at the millennials and the Gen Zs, there is a certain there is deep cynicism against superficial, fake, and plastic stuff. I think the call for brands to be authentic and not too salesy, uh, not too pretentious is important. And I think the young customers today, they have a natural mental block against words or phrases that sound not so genuine.
Yeah,
So,
true.
so authenticity is very important. And in social media, I mean, social media doesn't work like mass media.
Okay,
Social media, everyone is like a social personality. So, just like in a society, you don't like people who are fake, like your neighbors or your people in your kampong or in your family. Similarly, in social media, people expect people to be authentic. And if you're authentic, you're transparent, people will forgive if you make some small mistakes.
right,
I mean, Zuckerberg has turned the whole world upside down in so many ways. I mean, creating phenomenon like Trump and Brexit and Arab Spring and all that. People still forgive him because he's just so disarmingly transparent in terms of. I mean, he comes, apologizes, he admits to what's wrong, he says what I'm doing. I mean, that is the new age transparency and a certain degree of authenticity that he engenders in his personality
right.
for the common people. So yeah, it's very powerful. It's very important.
Okay. Can you give an exact example to the audiences here? How exactly or which brand that you can quote, for example, that have given this kind of genuine message or genuine brand perception?
Brand which is any brand which is doing fantastic in social media usually would have managed to establish that horizontal relationship with customers.
Okay.
All these years people said customer is king, customer is god, consumer is your boss, but they actually look down upon them. What brands need to realize is that consumer is like your wife or your friend or your mother is a consumer and your younger
Hmm.
brother is a consumer. The moment you start looking at people like that as a brand,
Hmm.
you start becoming more authentic, uh, more grounded, and more relatable.
Okay. And there's
That
another.
relationship,
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
where
Sorry.
brands used to be these perfect icons on a pedestal,
Hmm.
that is gone. Brands need to be like a friend to their customers, and that has to be the tone and manner, that has to be the personality, and that is the, I think, authenticity that Xavier was alluding to, and that's
Right.
becoming more and more.
Right.
I think in additions, I think this is also a time to testify, all the SME how strong they are in terms of their entrepreneurship and how could they actually overcome it. Because I noticed that some of the entrepreneurs, about a month, they already complaining about like they will shut down their business. Now I was just wondering, as in like just a month you want to shut down a business, is it like your business is not healthy from the start? So
Mm.
what is the cause of this issue that makes you have to say that you want to close your business after a month? So this is the crucial, I think there's a root problems that we need to understand, also the fundamental of the business.
Okay. Alvin also asked another question here is that it'll be interesting to figure out what is the challenges for the future businesses to appeal to the consciousness or the conscience ordeal of consumers. Yeah. So as we said, this MCO thingy has changed consumer behavior tremendously somehow or rather, and maybe we talk about consumers are more aware of what is available in the market, especially when they can source information so easily and rapidly within the internet itself. So what do you think on this? How, if you are to advise the audiences to craft a digital story messaging, targeting on consumers' consciousness or conscience, yeah, then we talk about social responsibility kind of messages, perhaps. What would be your take on this? What kind of advice will you be able to give to the audiences here?
I think we are very lucky to living in the digital age that everything is at our disposal, and just like you mentioned, just a click away. So there are so many ways to go about digital marketing, digital digitizations, whatever. It will be always start with creating online presence. Whether you have a website, whether you just have a website, register your business page and on Facebook, open the Instagram and TikTok accounts, whatever it is, to make sure your visible online information about your business is accessible to your audience. So we just now we talk about so much about authenticity. So it's be genuine and concern for your consumer. Number two, I always felt that it's important to be consistent, because a lot of times, people do not consistent in terms of delivering a message. Always make sure you're engaged with your audience. That's good way to build loyalty and trust. Knowing your values and what brand's identity is, make sure your story revolve about that. And also the number three, we just mentioned about earlier, would be put your consumer or customer first. And in everything you do, your consumer must be your main priority. If your content not driven to what they're looking for, how will you be able to keep them engaged, let alone convert that into sales? So I think these are the three elements that everyone should actually focus on, and at the same time really have to put effort in creating online story and good online stories, online content.
I see. Okay. There's a question for Prashant here. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on social media marketing for higher end restaurants, for example, fine dining, in this period of time, assuming they don't provide delivery services?
Well, if they do not provide delivery services, not even through, let's say, Food Panda or Grab Food and all that, then it is quite clear that their sales is zero right now.
Okay.
Now, in such a context, as far as revenues are concerned, I guess they have to wait for the MCO to get over. But as far as branding is concerned, they can still do branding campaigns, and there an opportunity to plug into the peak state of mind that people have right now in terms of their social consciousness, uh, in terms of supporting the health workers. These offer new opportunities.
Mm.
Uh, Maybe I mean, thinking aloud, if they have a database of their loyal customers, because I know that a lot of fine dining restaurants collect business cards from their customers. Maybe they can start a fund to mobilize their loyal customers to help uh, the poor people who are not getting their food these days properly, and uh, use some stuff like that, and they can get tremendous buzz that here is a fine dining restaurant that is using their people right now because they can't sell, so they are using it to help the poor people, feed the poor people. It's similar to what this brand has done in Paris, where they repurposed their assembly line to produce hand wash, and it was a perfume brand. I think it's
LVMH.
Christian Dior. What is that?
LVMH.
LVMH. So they repurposed their assembly lines for perfumes to produce hand wash. And that has created such a massive positive buzz for them around the world. So there is an opportunity to do stuff like that, to create a lot of top of mind for people, so that once this is all over, their brand stands out in terms of being purpose driven, in terms of having a large heart.
Right. So,
yeah, speaking about that, Chef Daniel Hum, the #1 chef in the world, top three, so he turns his restaurant 11 Madison to be a soup kitchen to actually feed the poor. So I think this is also a good example that the fine dining restaurant also ready to help the poor, and also ready to help to actually people to actually go overcome this crisis together.
so what our
Now,
panelists
I do not know
go ahead,
whether sorry, just to add, I don't know whether the restaurant is allowing tapao. If they are allowing tapao, then maybe there is an opportunity to connect with their CRM database.
Right. So, well, the thought here from
and use modification.
Okay, so for Daniel, the question here,
Sorry.
so the panelist suggestion is that if the social media marketing is not meant for you to achieve the objective of raising revenue, then perhaps it is good for you to raise your brand image itself, right? By connecting yourself with a more conscious acts, like working together with the frontliners and to help these people here. I also have a very interesting thought from what Daniel has asked here just now. Maybe again, either Prashant or Xavier, you can talk about this as well. When a high-end brand tries, for example, a high-end restaurants in fine dining, right? Obviously, they need to ensure that their food delivery services and the quality of the food remains as good as before they send out from their kitchen, for example, right? Yeah, so it's very important for them to do so in the fine dining restaurant, right? So if they really want to go for a delivery service, for example, how, in terms of brand matching, brand image matching between the delivery services and their own brand, will there be an issue for that?
I don't see any issues as in that, because I have for my former clients, big restaurants, they're also doing something which is like meant for delivery. I think they are trying to see what the consumer wants right now. Most important, like we mentioned earlier, understand your consumer. What do they really want at this point in time? Not really doing like stick whatever this and that. This is something difficult, because stick you must eat when it's hot. When you send to the home, it is cold, it is not delicious at all. So you have to see what kind of dishes is suitable, are suitable for delivery. At the same time, you need to be flexible in terms of changing your dishes, and make sure that your dishes are good, in terms of delivery.
Right. We have another question from Nicole Poo here. What are the best thing for the non-essentials brands to do digitally now, during and post MCO, before everything goes back to normal? What are the best things for the non-essential brands to do digitally now, during and post MCO?
Probably I should start first.
Yes.
I think for non-essential items or brands, it is important for them to keep their brands alive, because the thing is that you do not want your consumer to think that you are sayonara, because of this COVID and COVID-19 pandemic. You need to make sure that like we talk about digitization, it's all about data. Understand that you have a consumer database. Make sure you take this opportunity to connect to them, ask them how are you, whether they're all right. Sometimes you just make sure that you give like it with them. Probably you even can actually, if they are your top consumer, probably you can even send a surprise gift to make sure that you are concerned about them. You do not need to actually like keep selling or want to sell this product, but at the end of the day, after the post pandemic, they will definitely remember you. They will definitely come back and support you. I think it's important for brands to actually be aware that it's important to keep the brands kicking, not just about your quiet, so make sure that your social media has post something related to what that show that you are concerned about their concerned about them, you cared about them, you love about them.
Okay. Prashant, you have any thoughts on this?
Yep. Yep, I would completely agree with Xavier. I think even if the customer might not need you right now, the fact that you care about them when they are going through this crisis is a very interesting opportunity for you to build a special connection with them, which they will remember afterwards. So, totally.
Okay, interesting. But I also guess that the definition of non-essential items might have changed during this MCO. Yeah, things that you may not use all this while suddenly you think that you need it right now. Yeah, things might change. Yeah. Another question here by Khalis Lokman as well. If a small manufacturing business, such as supplying or manufacturing furnitures, will it change the consumer behavior since the new normal is introduced? So, in regards to furniture business, perhaps here, do you think the consumer behavior has changed based on this new normal now?
So, can I answer?
Yes, please.
So, well, people will still need furniture, but given that so many institutions have come to predict a session that could last up to 2 years at least. Clearly, there may be an overall dip in durable business, and that doesn't just apply to furniture; it applies to most of the other durable businesses. So, uh, so yeah, the furniture business will be impacted by that. Now, if you want to not be impacted by the shrinking of the overall furniture industry, and be able to shine in these once the new normal is introduced, then you have to think about what are the considerations at that time and how can I distinguish myself. So for instance, it is possible that people visiting furniture shops, because people may be going out a bit less, they may not want to go out in places and touch things and stuff like that. So maybe you want to think about how to allow people to experience the furniture virtually, and so that they can see what the furniture looks like and be able to imagine how it will fit in the living room and stuff like that before they actually are drawn to the shop. So to take the customer journey in the virtual space. So that is
Right.
one way. I mean, going beyond photos, for instance, there are many augmented reality applications that allow people to see what the furniture will look like in their living room and stuff like that. So coming up with these differentiated innovations and stuff may help you offer something new, find a new way to help people in this contactless, low touch world that we are going to see post lockdown. Uh, the other options could be, let's say, people may visit a furniture shop, but they may be afraid of touching things because 100 other people have touched it, and so on. So you could have various measures taken to help people uh, take care of their hygiene better. Like I saw this innovation that one of the supermarkets here has done, where they introduce these disinfectants at the entrance. So you pass through that, and it sprays the disinfectants at you, so that it's like that spray in the aeroplanes when you are getting down. So uh, innovations like these and communicating these innovations to people may make them feel that you care about their health and hygiene better. You may even talk about uh, you know there might be in-store measures taken to minimize touch so that people feel comfortable. So all these things hopefully allows you to differentiate versus rest of the industry
Okay.
in furnitures.
Right. What about those industries as where naturally the differentiation is a bit difficult? to be done. Yeah, for example, education. That's where I'm in here in this industry, where programs are programs, basically regardless of which university you study, right? So how do you think then items like these or services like these will be able to differentiate itself using the digital stories strategy?
So, I mean, sorry, please, Xavier, go ahead.
I think for education, you're talking about educations, right?
Example, yeah.
Dr. Ryan, right? Yeah. So when we talk about every brands, every company, or even comes to education, I think storytelling is very important. When we say about storytelling, how well that you tell about the stories about, like, for instance, like UOW Malaysia. What is so interesting about UOW in using storytelling? And how well you can connect with your target audience. Of course, it's important for, I think, in general, I think this is also a good time. MCO is a good time for all the SME or the company owners to actually analyze what sort of new strategy they should implement for their upcoming business strategies. Because you see, if your business quiet, nobody's will know. But the thing is that if you're going to, people actually argue whether is it the right time for you to advertise or not advertise. If you're not advertising next 6 months, I can guarantee you nobody's will remember you. But make sure at this point in time, you make sure your story is interesting enough to actually capture people's attention and make them to actually move them. A good story definitely can move consumers, but you need to know the technique or the skills to actually strategize your stories. Not just about banging, whatever things that you have. I notice a lot of SME, it's just throwing everything they have. I think they do not plan it. It's just like they're showing that, today I have this, tomorrow we have that. But the thing is, what is, like, for give you examples, like you are selling curry noodle. But every day you're talking about curry noodle, curry noodle. But have you ever talked about what is so unique about your soup? What is so? Did you talk about, like, the ingredients that you're using, or the ingredients that go through with da 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 da? What do you talk about? Like, what is so special your curry noodle compared to others when does so this is the thing, is like, I think a lot of business owners do not think about it. They just focus on the product, but they do not talk about behind the scenes. When I say behind the scenes, means something which is like people cannot see, but people want to know more.
Okay.
Like, for instance, furniture shop, they could talk about behind the scenes in terms of how this furniture shop, furniture is being manufactured. Where are these, products from? Using what kind of woods, that you produce it, what kind of material you produce it, and make it your story, not just about promoting furniture, but you talk about how you decor the items. Okay, you should put your sofa here with with this color. You talk about colors combination. You talk about style. You don't need to just focus on your product and product every day. People feel bored about your storytelling. Make your product or your storytelling sexy.
So it's actually offering the sort of a thought process for the target market, right? How do you actually utilize the things better?
And you need to actually amplify um, uh, story. I mean, people to feel it, to experience it, not just about like just see it. But the thing is, like, talking about, for example, property. The thing is, like, a lot of time people will say that property now is challenging. Yes, property is now is very challenging. But what kind of experience you could provide to the consumers by, just now Prashant I mentioned about virtual, as you give them a virtual tour about your unit, and also you give them like sort of like in the video you put some effort in actually making a nice video, make them to feel that, oh, this is something genuine. This is not something that you push.
Xavier, sorry, I think your line was a bit weak there. Can't really hear what you said, and it's quite choppy just now. Never mind. If you can, you just type in certain keywords on the chats on the
What I
chat side.
mentioned So what I'm trying to say is, like, make your stories as sexy as possible,
Okay.
but not just about just product oriented. Yeah.
Right. And Prashant, what do you think about the most hard-hitted industry now, the tourism? Yeah. So the airlines, what can they do now in banging on this digital story strategy?
Prashant is
Well,
Are you still there?
I think things are set for a structural decline, unfortunately, because
Yeah.
already I can imagine. I mean, I ran a multinational company across Asia for several years, and I can already see that the business travel,
Yes.
is forever going to decline dramatically, because a lot of bosses will realize that people don't actually need to travel. They can leave. So you can see the travels going down by one third of what it was in the past. Anyway, but airlines, the world will still need airlines, and overall the tourism industry. I mean, the number of people who are traveling outside for holidays and stuff like that has only been going up and up in the last 20 years, and that is not good. That's a macro trend that's in the long run will increase, even though there might be some cyclical downturn in the next couple of years.
Mm.
Now, if I was an airline, I would do a campaign where the tagline is "Do not fly with us."
So it's a reverse psychology thingy, yeah?
Because airlines are always trying. Sorry,
It's a reverse psychology thingy.
it's a reverse psychology thingy.
Yeah.
If I was tourism Malaysia, I would be doing a campaign around "Do not come to Malaysia. We
Okay.
love you so much. You come. We have our culture requires us to treat our guests like God, but you know what? This is not the time. And yes, we do have these amazingly beautiful things in Sabah and Sarawak and Terengganu, but not at this time. And we know that you love our culture of hospitality and our food and all that, and it tastes awesome, but not right now. I would do that campaign.
I think the campaign will definitely go viral, Prashant.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is the idea. But
That's the
yeah,
objective,
so
right?
I'm saying, correct. You see, we in our generation, we have not seen extraordinary times like these ever. And that creates psychological opportunities to tap people's psyche like never before.
Yeah.
And
So
that is a huge opportunity for
yeah.
brands who are trying to leverage.
So we'll make sure that when we post this video, we'll tag on Tourism Malaysia, yeah, and more tag as well, so that they will hear what you said. Okay. Thank you very much for all the questions. We are running out of time now. I will just take one more question for the panelists to address. This comes from Jack Lim. With all the surge of businesses suddenly investing more time on social media, would other businesses that are now only trying to get onto the bandwagon be drowned out because people are starting to feel numb from excessive advertisements or promotional contents? What do you think about that?
Prashant.
Do you think the consumers are getting tired of all these digital ads now?
No, not at all. Consumers are used to seeing 86 TV ads on the same day. Within 3.5 hours, they watch TV.
Okay.
Listen, underestimate human mind's ability to filter out what's not relevant to them, block out what's annoying, and be able to receive what makes sense, what's meaningful, what's entertaining, what's engaging. So if you mean to say whether the clutter has increased the need for being more engaging and being more relevant, absolutely. But let us not underestimate human mind.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah, you
I think one thing
yeah, go ahead.
is like one thing is I think through this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, realized that the online gurus and it's like booming and everybody can this guru, that guru. I think besides that, it's important for consumers to have that mindset that you need before you enroll yourself into any guru, so-called marketing specialist classes about your background, before you enroll yourself. Otherwise, they upsell you, don't cry, then you say that you're being conned or scammed or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
just
one very
go ahead.
advice for all businesses
Prashant,
is
your
to have
voice is
their digital infrastructure.
sorry, can you repeat again?
Sorry. So one important prerogative for all businesses is to get their digital infrastructure in place not just digital campaigns, but also their social media platform. And I think Xavier referred to it in the beginning. Their CRM infrastructure in place, a very good e-commerce enabling website, which is designed to bring people to your shop if you can't sell online. But if you can sell online, then there has to be a way to create an e-commerce play, which is not just dependent on Lazadas of the world, but your own play as well. So if there is one very important trend, is digital acceleration. All those companies which were going on this 10-year roadmap of digital transformation will be forced to crunch it in the next 2 years or even sooner, because otherwise they may not survive.
Yeah. Okay. We really no time now. Yeah, but I still want to ask this last question. I think this is a goal. It's $1 million questions to know exactly. Especially when you say that it's really essential for the SMEs, especially to really start to have their own online presence itself, right, and digital strategies itself. How much do you think they should invest? How much should they allocate in the next 1 year, for example?
I think it depending on your budget. You can't just invest like crazy, because even those like digital marketing is
but
important.
maybe
But
you
you
just
have to
you just give a percentage, for
I,
example, from their revenue,
I
let's say.
think
Yeah.
I think it's 4 to 8% of your total revenue for me, at
Okay.
least.
Prashant, your thought?
Well, the good news is that when it comes to digital transformation, there is a solution for every size.
Okay.
So there are CRM systems that charge hardly $1,000 a month as well, and then there are those which charge $1 million a month as well. So
Okay.
there are solutions for every level. So I guess it is less about how much budget you should set aside. What is important is that whatever you do is fits your business needs, and
Okay.
you do it with passion and with the customer in your epicenter. So
I
that is
see.
more important.
So
Yeah, and then as you gain success through that, you can always scale as you go along.
okay. So you spend little first, and as along the way it grows better, then you spend a bit more.
Correct, and there are options at every level. In
So
fact,
how many percent
a
would you
website
suggest?
designed for
How many percent would you suggest SMEs to start with as a to set aside a budget for digital strategies?
you mean digital? So okay, so digital marketing would
Yeah.
have two components. There would be the capex required to set up the infrastructure.
Okay.
And by capex, I mean, like, for instance, you want to pay someone to design a website, you want to get a CRM system that may in the beginning cost a little extra, or you might pay someone to set up your social profile and stuff like that. So that
Okay.
is like upfront investment, and then there is running investment.
Right.
Running investment, I mean, FMCG companies spend as much as 10 to 20% for new launches, 20% for ongoing. It could be 10%, but depending on the business, that figure may vary.
Okay.
As far as infrastructure is concerned, that is a different kind of investment. I mean,
Okay.
in the sense, it gets amortized over at least 3-4 years, so you can take a longer term view.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you so much, our panelists, for your insights as well as your thoughts as well. What is your last piece of advice for all our audiences here? We go with Prashant first.
The last piece of advice, uh, I think the feeling that the entire humanity is bound together by our shared vulnerabilities is quite extraordinary. So I would like to believe that this crisis will bring the good people of the world together and make us more united as humanity.
Excellent. Xavier?
I think as since we are talking about SME, I think for SME who actually do not have online presence in the past few years, this is also a good time for you to wake up, to actually to embark the social media channels. Even though sometimes you may not interested TikTok, but sometimes doesn't mean that you do not actually embark this interesting platform, because so that you understand what's going on with this youngsters. Because when I started TikTok, right, everybody asked me like, are you having fever? To me, it's like, if I do not explore this platform, right, I do not know how crazy, these youngsters, why they are so engaged with this TikTok, So to me, it's like, do not actually like fear of trying. But to me, it's like most important is actually keep trying and have fun. Do not actually having the mindset that I want to achieve this. But when you have fun, you will tend to actually do more fun things. And people do not want serious stuff online, for especially during this crisis. People want something to make them happy, like Prashant mentioned earlier. You need to connect with your consumer. Don't make them feel panic. Don't make them feel like it's a bad day. Watching your social media is kind of like crisis to them. So I think it's important to keep your social media lively. So fun, and also something you make them want to see more. Your content.
So try yourself before you invest into the digital strategies, right? Or digital platforms, right?
I think you need. I think it's important for you to understand,
Yeah.
before you invest, because otherwise people might con you or scam you. Then
That's very true.
you do not know how
That's
people
very true.
charge you. But when people talk about impression, it's all about you pay, you get that impression. You don't pay, you don't get the impression.
Yeah.
So that's simple as easy as that.
So guys,
You want to get that,
yeah,
if you want to get the impression, it's also depending how much you invest in the advertising.
yeah. So guys, for you to have a safe investment on digital marketing, just look for Xavier or Prashant. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much to our panelists for your final thoughts there and your final feedback. Just to give some credits to the sources used in this session here: Al Jazeera, Bank Negara Malaysia, Focus Malaysia, Hot Suite, News Straits Times, SME Association of Malaysia, and the Rakyat Post. The next session that I'm going to have is next Tuesday, 27th of April 2020 from 3 to 4 p.m. I'll be talking with another speaker of mine on the topic of MCO, blessing or curse for artists and influencers. So earlier on, Xavier has talked about nano influencers versus mass influencers. So if you're interested to know more about this, then you can actually talk and to my next presenter there, Prashant Chitti, from this Zeno Entertainment itself. Yeah. So otherwise, I'll see you.
Seem to have a preference for
Sorry,
Prashant.
what's
You
that?
seem to have a preference for Prashant.
Yeah, somehow or rather, I don't know why. It's just, yeah, I got confused sometimes with the two names, similar names here. Yeah, it's a good name anyway. Okay, so if you, we will post this video on our
T.
YouTube channel. Yeah, so follow us at our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at UWMKDU. If you have any question that you would like to ask further, you can send to this email or WhatsApp us at these numbers. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time this evening, and thank you so much for our panelists, Prashant and Xavier. Thank you a lot, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a pleasant day. Bye.
Goodbye.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.